What does pots and pans mean to you?
I mean, it's just a beautiful thing, really. We started years ago. We've been touring since then, and it's just great, you know. We've had to kick out a lot of members. We've gotten a lot of new members. It's just great,
What does pots
you know?
and pans mean to you?
It's sorry. It's about trust and loyalty.
What does pots and pans mean to you?
It really meant a lot, man. Like, I really admire this band. It's my life.
Like, when Pots and Pans started, it was the day after I saw the Foo Fighters for the first time. And me and a bunch of my friends were hanging out, and we just got a bunch of drums made out of Tupperware containers and stuff. And I grabbed a mandolin and a Casio keyboard, and we just started jamming. It was great. Our original drummer, longtime drummer Grayson, was in the band, and he was on the mandolin. I played the guitar. My old friend Max played the drums, and then my brother Patrick was on vocals. And it was really a magical moment because none of us knew how to play the instruments we were playing, but it sounded like heavens had just opened up, and like the gods of rock and roll were blessing us, and it was really amazing. Where are you headed right now?
Currently headed to the Pots and Pans headquarters.
So what is the basic history of Pots and Pans?
To understand the basic history of Pots and Pans, I think you really have to go back to Whiplash, which was a rap rock group formed by me and James Leahy. We were friends. We played Gary's Mod a lot on Steam games, and we Skyped all the time. And our first song we wrote was called Golden Crown, and we wrote it over Skype with singing. It was a massive sensation. It topped in Europe, actually. It was quite a hit, but we weren't really feeling it. And I was looking for more musical diversity. So at a party once, I got a bunch of friends together. We got mandolins, keyboards, guitars, drums made out of pots and pans, and that's how we started. The original lineup was me on guitar, my brother Patrick on vocals, my friend Max on drums, and then Grayson on mandolin. And it was a lot of fun. We wrote our first song that day, which was We're Not Very Good, and it was amazing. It was quite a magical experience, for sure. What was the first Pots and Pans experience
It
like
was
for you?
so magical. I was on vocals, and Martin was on drums, my brother, and I think that his friend Max was on drums, and our old bandmate Grayson was on the mandolin, and it was crazy how good we were at first. Like, it just all came together like the first ever time, and I didn't think it would come like that, and I'm so sad to see it come.
But after the magic of the first show, I think some of the people in the band couldn't handle the awesomeness that was Pots and Pans. And so Max left, and we had to switch around how we did things. So we moved Grayson to the Casio keyboard. My brother was still on vocals, and we pulled in James, my former Whiplash bandmate, for guitar, and I moved to bass. And then we had someone named Ashley come in to play the drums. And that was to form for our second show, which was originally to open up for Whiplash, which is a thing that happened. How was the first Pots and Pans show you were in for you?
I mean, the energy of the crowd was great, as it always is, because, you know. But Patrick was kind of being a dingus the whole show. Like, I don't know what was up with him, but I don't know.
I don't care what he told you. He quit. 5 minutes before we went on stage, he goes, "Is it bad that I don't want to be the singer of Whiplash anymore?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a bad thing. We're about to perform in front of 50,000 people." And he was all upset. So we played one song called Darkness, and it was terrible. And we quit on stage and never went back. But bright side is Pots and Pans actually ended up playing after Whiplash. And then the most magical concert experience happened. To this day, the most exciting concert to ever exist. Ever.
What was the first and last Whiplash show like?
I mean, it was going great at first, but some guy in the mosh pit got real hurt, so we had to cancel the show. It's kind of rough.
How do you feel about allegations that you quit the band 5 minutes before going
All
on
wrong,
stage?
all fake. Just can't believe those people.
How did you feel about the first show with James Leahy in the band?
It was amazing, but it felt different. And in a good and bad way. It felt very good to have a fresh new start. But having James in the band was a bad thing.
The show was amazing, but there was bad blood already, I think, the second we started between James and Patrick. They just really, they didn't connect. Two creative personalities like that, don't mix well. I mean, James was reinventing the Smoke on Water riff, continuously, and just in such new and imaginative ways. And of course, Patrick was singing his heart out like Elton John on steroids, and it was they're both just the cracks started to form almost immediately between the two of those, and they wouldn't be resolved for a long
So we went to our main headquarters in Maine at a beach house to start writing and recording the demos for our debut album, because we knew we couldn't hold the fans over for too long. And we actually played some shows while we were up there, and we made 100 pennies for one show.
How did you feel when we started the writing process for our first album?
I mean, me and Martin, we just sort of clicked super well, and Patrick, his crazy genre ideas. I just wanted the explosionist folk punk music, and he just wanted everything else. He doesn't know how to deal with fame. He just doesn't understand it sometimes. But I've been in Whiplash, I've been in all these bands, and he just doesn't have enough experience.
But the writing was just not jazz and super jazzily. We didn't have Grayson with us. It was just me and James and Patrick. And immediately, James and Patrick were not getting along, and we were having a lot of writing disagreements on where to take the direction. James wanted to take it in a more experimental jazz explosion folk punk, and Patrick wanted to take it into more of just a straight up polka. And I was in the middle going, wait a second, I thought we were a rock band. And both of them were we were, but our fans deserve better than that.
What was it like writing with James Leahy?
He always wanted a jazz band. Who wants a jazz band?
That's just not true at all. You're the one that wanted a jazz band. I wanted folk, pop, punk, funk with jazz solos.
No,
you wanted
didn't!
jazz.
No, you didn't!
That's lying.
What you wanted was jazz!
Break it up. Bring it up. Hey.
So as you can see, we went on a hiatus, and it just wasn't going well. And we decided we wanted to resume about next summer and around June. And it was really me and Grayson at the forefront of it this time. We were really pumped for being musicians, and they call us the Mario Bros because we liked Mario, and also I liked wearing green hats and he liked wearing red hats, and we just became this force of nature, kinda. We started writing a lot. Pretty much every other song that made it onto the album was written by me and Grayson in those times, and we played out a lot with Patrick without James, because he was in New Jersey at the time for Hangman's Job, writing for that. And me and Grayson and Patrick just played out as much as possible, and we played to some pretty big audiences. It was before our first real world tour, but we were playing often, and we were building traction, and we really wanted to do something big.
How did you feel when Martin and Grayson and Patrick started doing shows without you?
I mean, I think they were just tired of getting so much fame and popularity. I was going out with... I was doing a couple shows with Hangman's Job. We weren't doing much. We sold out a couple of arenas, not much stuff, But they were just so tired of fame, you know? Like, they were playing local venues, like...
How are the shows with Grayson and Martin without
Finally,
James?
now we're getting to something good. They were marvelous, spectacular, inspirational, and even though we were writing new stuff, I don't really think that was why. I think it was because we didn't have James.
I wanted to do something to really commemorate how much of a fun summer we were having, how much audience. So we packed this giant arena for Pots and Pans, and it was for my birthday, actually. And Hangman's Job was going to do a quick little surprise guest appearance at the end. And we were really excited for this one. We were going to jam our whole discography, and we were going to cover Detroit Rock City by Kiss, and we were going to wear Kiss makeup to try to taunt them for never being as good as us. And we wanted to bring James back for this, or should I say me and Grayson did. Patrick was not super on board, but we wanted to bring James back because we felt he deserved a second chance, and he really added something to the band that we didn't want to take away. But this time we were going to put him on bass because he was trying to get too much of the spotlight, and while he is this generation's Eddie Van Halen on guitar, we needed him to gain some humility in a smaller role inside the band.
How did you feel when we asked James to join the band again?
I was so mad
How did you eventually agree to letting him join?
because he wasn't going to get all the spotlight. The spotlight was going to be on me because I'm the lead singer, and everyone knows that's the most important part.
How did you feel when you were asked to rejoin Pots and Pans on bass?
I mean, at first I hesitated a little because at first I kind of had the condition that Patrick had to be out for me to come back, but I was just ready to be in that spotlight again. But once they said I wasn't in the spotlight, I kind of, I don't know, it just wasn't the same energy. Like we weren't even the headliner.
Me and Grayson were at rehearsal. Patrick and James didn't show up. And we didn't think much of it. They were like, yeah, we'll practice on our own. No worries. It'll be great. And we were like, okay. I'll see you then. So we showed up to the show in our Kiss makeup. And we get there. We go on stage. And we were going to do a little tease cover of Detroit Rock City. And we start playing. And I look over at James and Patrick, and neither of them know even what the song is or who Kiss is. They said they fell asleep and woke up with the makeup on them. And me and Grayson were jamming out, but Detroit Rock City doesn't work as a song with just guitar and drums. So we start playing, and they don't. And then they start playing a different song, each of them. Patrick starts playing, I don't even know what. He starts singing random notes, every note in his range. James does an improvised jazz bass solo, while me and Grayson are trying to play a classic rock song. And it was crazy because it was probably the worst show we've ever played, and the crowd still loved it. But we all looked at each other and were like, we gotta fix this. This is not working. So I got on the drum kit. Grayson got on the keyboard. Patrick picked up the guitar, and James started singing. And we covered I Like Food by the Descendants. And it was the most magical cover we've ever done. It was a moment where all of the stars aligned, and we just knew any prior issues that we had were now resolved. Patrick and James were crying by the end of the set, hugging each other, apologizing for the issues, and I think James and Patrick were both really humbled and taken down a few notches to be more surface level and more appreciative of the level of success that we had.
How was the birthday party show for you?
It was pretty good. The Kiss, whatever Kiss is, I don't know, but whatever Kiss is, that part didn't go so well. But then James started singing, and everything kind of felt better. And I thought, what's with all this fighting? I mean, I'm the lead singer. They couldn't do it without me. Why do we have to fight? So yeah.
How did you feel about Martin's birthday party show?
The birthday party show? Well, the rehearsals for it were actually miserable. Patrick wanted the spotlight. He didn't know what Kiss was. He wanted to do jazz solos. And stuff.
I never wanted to do jazz!
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry for that interruption. But anyways,
But once we got to the show, Martin goes, well, prior to the show, me and Patrick had gotten kicked out of rehearsal, right? Because, we were fighting a lot. We kind of came to the agreement that we were going to do the jazz stuff, but then Martin's like, no, we can't do that. So I'm like, okay. Me and Patrick, we go home. I wake up the next day. We go to the show. They have this weird makeup on. I start doing the jazz stuff, and they're playing this crappy Kiss band covers. Like, they're smaller than us. Why are we covering them? And like, I don't know what happened. So then I picked up the mic, and the stars aligned, and it was this beautiful moment, and everyone finally felt connected. Because we weren't doing the jazz solos, Patrick.
You wanted them!
Max, break it up. Max, break it up.
No! You cannot bring those up! You don't want it!
We were a band again. It was incredible. Like, the fighting really ceased. I think they really made up, for now, at least. And everything was going good. We played a couple more shows, and now we knew it was really it really was time to start branching out. So me and Grayson started making plans to really record and get this album out there, because the fans were getting ravenous. We were getting death threats in the mail. If you don't release this album, I will come to your house and kill your cat and make you eat it. Like, it was intense, and they wanted it so bad. So we booked some fall shows, and we'd never done that before. And we played some fall shows, and this is when issues started to arise with me and Grayson. And we still are on good terms, but it was not flowing as well. We played a show, and he didn't show up, and we had to get Robbie of Zombie Raptor to come in and play drums for us. And it was a great show, but it was so weird because no one can really capture that magic on a drum kit that Grayson can. And not having him there for the drums was very hard to deal with.
How did you feel when Grayson didn't show up for the show?
I mean, honestly, I wasn't super upset because Robbie of Zombie Raptor, I would have loved to have him in the band, but he's so busy with Zombie Raptor and everything. But Grayson was always just sort of filler for the band. Like, he was the least important part of the band.
How did you feel when Grayson didn't show up for that show?
I was really hurt. Like, we were so close, and then we just, kind of never heard from him for a while. And then every once in a while we would hear from him, but then for some reason he kind of just died.
That is not even kind of factually true, and we're not keeping this in.
So, yeah, we played the show, and we were ready to go into the studio, and we did, and it was magical. Like, no fighting. James and Patrick were actually on really good terms, and at this point, we wrote some new songs to bring in, and those songs were Flurgle Burgle, Upside Down, and the parody song Nerd Shiner. And those three songs just became massive hits when we would bring them into the show circuit for us. And when we went to record them, it was everything, the stars aligned, and just once again I really felt the magic that is Pots and Pans, and more so than I had felt really ever in a writing scenario, because every time we had tried to write prior, it came out miserably. But that time it was really, the songs had a general direction, and everyone was really happy with the state of the band, minus the fact that Grayson was kind of out of the picture.
So Upside Down, it was amazing. It was a masterpiece. It was iconic. But for a little bit, James didn't like it. And I was like, what the fudge? But then, like, we got used to the song, and it was one of our biggest hits. And everyone was like, perfect. And, like, I started hearing fan mail, getting, like, messages on Instagram. People started DMing, sending me DMs. And, yeah, but we were still all very, very upset that Grayson had been gone.
Grayson was out. James, like, we were writing songs. We had this song called Upside Down, which would eventually become our biggest chart topper. And James was actually not super fond of the song. But then one day we were in the rehearsal room when we were starting the recording process, and he just started sobbing while the song was playing. He was like, this reminds me of my dead dog. This is a beautiful song, and I can't believe I've helped to create it. And it's really heartwarming. He sobbed for 2 days straight, listening to the rough recording of the song on repeat. And yeah, he doesn't like it when I talk about that, but yeah.
How did you feel when we started the recording process and the writing of our biggest hit?
It was pretty cool. I went into the studio with them. I'm like, guys, I wrote this song called Flurgle I wrote this song called Upside Down, and I wrote this song called, well, the song is called Nerdshiner, but at the time I didn't have lyrics. Martin Harvey Olsen actually wrote the lyrics to that, so big thanks to him. So, after that, Martin's like, whoa guys, we should make this really upsetting backstory about one of the songs and have it revolve around James. But all of that's not true. It's just a thing to gain a little popularity. I'm like, guys, we already have enough popularity because I'm in the band, and I'm like, this era Eddie Van Halen.
James didn't write Upside Down. I did. Also, Nerdshiner is a cover. All we did was change the words. So I don't really know where he's getting that from. Figured I'd say that for legal reasons. I don't know if we're allowed to say that we wrote that song. But yeah, we finished most of the recordings for the album, and it was magical. We ended up getting a lot of the diversity I wanted to have. We had James's song Captain Song, which was his really big jazz ballad that he was always looking forward to, and it was very emotional. And then we had In the Pool, which was I think it's just called In the Pool, which is a song that me and Patrick had wrote a long time ago. And then we had Captain Song, like the diversity between all of the songs, I think really showed off what was Pots and Pans. And we were ready to start playing it to the world. And that's when we got our first summer tour set up. And that's when we played our last show with Grayson.
How did you feel on our first summer tour?
It needed a little bit of work, but I feel like with Grayson back for a little bit and James and I had no drama, it went pretty well. But like the next tours, we'll get to that later, and those were very magical.
How was the first world tour for Pots and Pans?
Oh, that world tour was great. We played in every single state. We just every state, one state a day, just traveling over. It was just great.
That's when we played our last show with Grayson. It was in our hometown. It was the hometown show of the tour in Nashua, New Hampshire. And we played, and he was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not super into it anymore. And he left. And that was hard. And we couldn't really find a replacement drummer. So what ended up happening was we moved James to drums. I took on banjo, and Patrick was on vocals and keys. And we really the shows became more acoustic, and I think we started taking it in a more mellow folk direction. And that's how the last leg of that tour was. I remember our Orlando, Florida show, the drum set was actually made of pillows. And we actually performed in Disney World to like 50 million people. and it's crazy. And I had my banjo, and we played really well, but it was definitely very different. And I don't think there was really an issue with the difference. I feel like we were starting to shift directions in more of a folk and less of a rock.
How did you feel about the acoustic leg of the tour?
It was really good. Getting to play keys was really awesome because I had been practicing them she's like a world famous piano teacher. Her name is Anne Harvey. She's like, oh my god, I couldn't have had a better teacher. And then these girls in Florida wanted to date me, and I was like, girls, I'm too busy.
How did you feel about the acoustic leg of the tour?
I mean, it was pretty cool. We got played to maybe about 50, 60 million people per show. It's pretty great.
We finally released our first song. It's called Upside Down. And there were a lot of issues with the release. It actually got delayed by about 4 months. And it was originally supposed to release in August, and it didn't release until much later. But when it released, it was probably the biggest song of the last decade. It got so many plays on Spotify, and it was just, people were like enamored with this, that's not a word, with this song. And we were very, I think it humbled us too, because I think we knew how good we were. But to know that everyone else knows that we're also really good almost made us feel like validated. And I think we were able to take ourselves less seriously because we felt like we had to try less hard. And we were really getting into talks for the All for None tour, which would end up being our final tour. And we were trying to get our album out there as well. And things were looking up, but I don't think any of us really knew that it was about to fall apart.
How did you feel when Upside Down came out?
I felt really good, but I was starting to not feel it. And then Hollywood offered me a role in a big time movie, and I had to make one of the biggest decisions of my life on should I be in Disney's Flurgle or should I be in Pots and Pans, and it was really hard.
What decision did you eventually come to?
I decided for a little bit I was going to do both, but then I'm going to choose the movie because Pots and Pans was already starting to not feel very right.
How did you feel when Upside Down was released?
I mean, it was great to see the song that I wrote. I mean, it was mostly me. They helped a little, but I'm the one that brought the song to the table. But anyways, it was great when it was released. I found myself with too much money. I couldn't keep it all in one place. Like, I had so much. And then Patrick eventually got asked to play a role in the Disney version of our song, Flurgle Burgle.
So, all of a sudden, Patrick gets offered this role in a Hollywood adaptation of our song, Flurgle Burgle. And he was pretty stoked, and we were pretty happy for him. I don't think there was really any bad blood. I think we really respected it, and also a lot of royalty money from Disney for an adaptation of our song. So, yeah, that was exciting. But we were really, it was hard because we wanted to go forever, and we realized we really just couldn't. And but he ended up actually making the movie alongside Pots and Pans at the same time. So we got together this tour called the All for None tour, which at one point was planned to be our farewell tour, our secret farewell tour. We were going to do it and then just be done and not really talk about it. And Patrick ended up filming the movie, and the movie never got released. And we ended up pushing off our demise, and it was really cool. And we were on the All for None tour, which is probably the best tour we ever did. It was incredible. We actually got a redemption shot at playing my birthday party, which was one of the best shows of all time. I mean, that had a crazy audience. People were dancing, and we were playing in the rain, and it was really incredible. We played a lot of great places. We actually got kicked out of a venue for playing so amazingly. People's heads were literally exploding.
How did you feel on the All for None tour?
I mean, it was really great, except we kind of had to cancel the tour for a little bit because the sound waves entered someone's brain and their head literally exploded. We played for a couple quadrillion people, though, overall, I'd probably say. It's a pretty good tour.
How did you feel about the All for None tour?
It was really good, but when the people's heads started exploding, I felt really bad. And I have actually never told someone this. I've actually spent some time in the big house for accidentally exploding people's heads. And that's why the movie never got released, because they didn't want someone who is in jail to be in their movie.
And we thought, well, I think it's finally time that we release our album and show it to the masses. And we were ready. We had just finished the album off and we were getting it set for release. And then me and James's side project, Take One, started blowing up. And with that, Pots and Pans took a major backseat, and I think all of us didn't really talk very much. Like, me and James talked because of Take One, but we weren't really. Pots and Pans had not had a formal show or meeting in a while. It was like 6 months of us not talking, and we were. I think James and me and Patrick were starting to wonder really like what's going on. We need to talk about this, and that's when we decided that we needed to do a farewell show to really give us a send-off.
How did you feel when we started talking about a farewell show?
I mean, I was kind of done with the fame. Like, I can't go anywhere without being recognized. Like, I'm literally the heart of the band. Like, it's just, I felt like it was time to be done, you know?
How did you feel when we discussed the farewell tour? Show.
I didn't feel actually that bad because I was actually hiding this from them, but Hollywood and everyone was asking me to be in their movies, and I even got a role alongside Emily Blunt and Meryl Streep, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing, but I didn't tell them because I knew they would be sad. But then when we started talking about the farewell show, I finally told them the news, and they were pretty accepting of it.
I think we collectively decided that the world was just kind of, we'd given so much to it, and we didn't want it to die out. We wanted to have left on a good note. So that's why we're doing this show. And I'm very excited because we actually have Max von Markgraf of Take One and the Crows coming in to play drums and fill what Grayson left behind. And he's just an incredible drummer. Like, I once was quoted saying that Grayson was the greatest drummer to ever live, better than John Bonham. And I would have to retract that statement and now say that Max von Markgraf is the best drummer to ever live.
How did you feel when we asked Max von Markgraf to come in on drums?
I was so happy when he said yes. Like, he is quite possibly the best drummer to ever live. He adds so much to the band. A lot more than every drummer we've ever had. A lot more than Ashley, a lot more than Grayson. Just a lot more than me, even, as a drummer. Because I'm actually, the first time I ever stepped onto a drumstick was on stage on our world tour. And I did it better than all our other drummers, up until Max joined the band. So it was just great, really.
How did you feel when Max von Markgraf was asked to join?
I was a little scared because he's my idol, and like I look up to him, and seeing like him be in the band, I was like, are we sure we're good enough for him? But then I thought, we're Pots and Pans, of course we're good enough for him, and he would obviously he would blow up even more when he's with us, and I'm just shook that he joined our band.
How did you feel when you were asked to join Pots and Pans?
I can honestly say, man, it felt pretty good. Like, I was, very excited when they asked me to join the band. It was so heartwarming for me.
Where are you guys headed now?
Heading down to rehearsal. Don't really think we need it because we're all so good, but Patrick probably does.
How do you feel about the rehearsal, Max?
I felt pretty excited about it, you know?
Just in the middle of rehearsals here, I'm actually going to start on the bass to pay homage to our original setup.
How do you feel about playing on the stage that we played our first ever show?
I'm really happy about it.
You ready, Max, to show the world what we have?
Yeah!
Play.
Woo! Whoa! 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 Whoa!
Are you excited that this is the end?
I'm not excited, but I am ready.